Some R-Vee engines were mistakes from the moment they left the factory, and today they're failing so often that entire motorhomes are being written off as money traps. These aren't quirky defects or rare breakdowns. These are engineered disasters that blow head gaskets, fry turbos, shred fuel systems, and leave owners with four-figure repair bills at the worst possible time. Shops see the same patterns over and over. Dealers quietly discount anything with these power plants. And the used market, it's already punishing anyone unlucky enough to own one. But here's the part nobody tells you. A few of these engines can destroy the value of your R-Vee in a single season, even if they haven't failed yet. Let's start with the engine that's burned more owners than any other. Ford Triton V10. There is a particular kind of silence that happens the moment an engine problem stops a trip cold. And few power plants have caused more of those moments in motorhomes than the Ford Triton V10. This engine earned a long-running reputation for smooth pulling power. Yet beneath that familiar reliability image sits a flaw that has cost owners thousands of dollars and cut resale values almost overnight. The issue begins with the early two-valve cylinder heads, built with aluminum threads that were simply too shallow to secure their spark plugs under sustained load. When pressure rises, especially on long highway grades, a plug can eject itself like a bullet. It sounds dramatic, but the failure is well documented. Ford published Technical Service Bulletin 07-21-2 explaining the defect in clear terms. Once that plug blows out, you are no longer dealing with a simple repair. The towing alone can run several $100s. And the thread restoration, if attempted, may not hold for long. Many shops recommend replacing the entire cylinder head, pushing the total bill into the several $1,000s range. Owners report that the failure does not always give warning. Sometimes there is a sharp pop, followed by a sudden loss of power and a smell of fuel. Other times the engine stumbles for a moment, then forces you onto the shoulder. Either way, the combination of surprise, noise, and immediate expense has created a shadow over every used motorhome powered by this engine's early design. Auction reports reflect this. Units equipped with the Triton V10 regularly sell for several $1,000s, less than similar coaches using General Motors power plants. Buyers have learned to check the service history carefully, verifying whether updated heads or thread repair inserts have been installed. Without those receipts, price negotiations become firm and unforgiving. Still, the Triton V10 is not without strengths. The later 3-valve and updated designs are considerably more durable. Many owners have clocked well over 150,000 miles with nothing more than routine maintenance. But the early engineering misstep continues to echo through the used market, shaping values in ways that cannot be ignored. Before moving on, consider this simple truth. Engines earn reputations because they either protect your wallet or punish it. In the case of the Triton V10, the math has been written for years. And the next engine on this list shows how a different design decision turned heat into a long-term financial drain. That lesson matters, because understanding why these patterns repeat helps prevent expensive surprises when evaluating older motorhomes, especially those with uncertain maintenance histories or missing documentation that could reveal repairs done years earlier to keep them running. GM 454 Vortec 7.4 liter. Any longtime traveler who has climbed a hot summer grade in an older motorhome knows the unmistakable smell of an engine fighting itself. And the GM 454 Vortec 7.4 liter is the source of many of those memories. This power plant earned a reputation for raw pulling strength, yet its design carried a flaw that becomes more obvious with every mile: heat. Not the ordinary warmth that comes from steady cruising, but sustained thermal load that builds faster than the cooling system can remove it. Owners often describe the same pattern. Temperatures edge upward on gentle inclines, then spike during long climbs until the dashboard needle creeps far beyond comfort. Exhaust manifolds crack, gaskets fail, and coolant begins to boil before relief arrives. The problem is not a single defective part. It is the cumulative stress created when a large displacement engine works against the constant weight of a fully loaded motorhome. Fuel consumption compounds the issue. Real-world reports show mileage dropping to 6 or 7 miles per gallon, sometimes even lower when headwinds rise or mountain passes stretch for miles. Every one of those gallons burned adds cost. Every steep grade adds wear. A documented invoice circulating among owner forums shows a cooling overhaul costing nearly $3,000, and many shops recommend preventive repairs before major trips simply to stay ahead of future failures. That pressure on the wallet influences the used market. According to long-term depreciation data, motorhomes equipped with the 454 Vortec often command noticeably lower prices than similarly built rigs using the later 8.1-liter engine. Buyers understand the math. Higher heat equals higher maintenance. Higher maintenance equals hesitant demand. Despite these concerns, the 454 Vortec retains followers who appreciate its straightforward mechanics. There is something undeniably solid about an engine built before extensive electronics took over. Yet even loyal owners acknowledge the truth. Time, weight, and heat are relentless opponents. The engine's strengths cannot erase the financial burden created when repeated thermal cycles push metal beyond its limits. Before shifting to the next engine, there is a lesson worth carrying forward. Problems rarely appear in isolation. They form patterns, and patterns affect both reliability and value. The 454 Vortec illustrates how an engine can be powerful enough to move a motorhome, yet costly enough to undermine long-term ownership. And the next engine in this lineup reveals how a single vulnerable component can turn an otherwise dependable platform into an unpredictable expense. Understanding these patterns does more than highlight mechanical weaknesses. It shows how hidden design choices shape long-term costs, influence market behavior, and ultimately determine whether a seemingly strong power plant protects your budget or steadily drains it through avoidable repairs and mounting stress. If you're finding this breakdown useful, make sure to like the video and subscribe so more of these investigations reach you. Share your experience below, especially if you've dealt with major engine failures. Your insight helps others avoid costly mistakes on the road. Cummins ISB 5.9 early 24-valve VP44 era. Some engines fail loudly, and others fail quietly until the damage is already done. The Cummins ISB 5.9 in its early 24-valve VP44 form belongs to that second category, the kind of power plant that looks dependable on the surface, yet carries a weakness hidden deep in the fuel system. What appears strong at idle can unravel the moment the lift pump can no longer supply steady pressure, and that single vulnerability has ended more long trips than owners like to admit. The engineering problem begins with placement. The original lift pump was mounted on the engine block, far from the fuel tank. Under heavy load, especially when a motorhome is climbing, that pump struggles to draw fuel consistently. Pressure drops. The injection pump overheats internally, and the VP44, a complex and expensive component, begins to fail from the inside out. There is no soft warning. Once it overheats, internal electronics and plungers seize, turning a manageable issue into a several $1,000 setback. Repair invoices tell the story clearly. A replacement VP44 can cost between $2,000 and $3,500 before labor, and the combined bill often surpasses $4,000 with installation. That does not include towing, diagnostic time, or the upgraded lift pump required to keep the new system alive. Owners who learn this lesson the hard way rarely make the same mistake twice, because the financial sting stays with them long after the repair is finished. What makes this failure feel so unfair is the engine's outward reputation. The 5.9 platform is beloved for good reason. It lasts, it pulls, it responds to care. Yet this particular generation sits in a difficult middle ground, where one flawed component can erase the reliability people expect from the Cummins name. The used market reflects that tension. Coaches powered by the early 24-valve versions sell for less than similar models using later common rail designs. And buyers who know the VP44 history approach negotiations with cautious confidence. This engine teaches a larger principle that matters every time a motorhome changes hands. A single weak link, even in an otherwise durable platform, reshapes long-term costs and resale math. Understanding where that link hides protects real money because it allows maintenance decisions to be proactive instead of reactive. And now it is time to look at the next engine on this list. One shaped not by fuel pressure, but by an emissions design choice that trapped owners in a cycle of repeated repairs, unexpected downtime, and value loss that still echoes through dealership inventories today. Navistar MaxxForce 76.4-liter. There are engines that make life easier on the road, and then there is the Navistar MaxxForce 76.4-liter, a power plant that turned good intentions into long stretches of downtime. What looked promising on paper became a lesson in how one design decision can create a chain reaction of repairs, lost travel days, and depreciation that follows a motorhome long after its first owner trades it in. The root of the issue sits in the emissions strategy. Instead of using a dual system with diesel exhaust fluid support, this engine relied entirely on exhaust gas recirculation. That choice forced the engine to reintroduce heat and soot back into the intake path, creating buildup faster than the system could manage. Over time, exhaust gas recirculation coolers clogged, temperatures spiked, and turbochargers suffered the consequences. Motorhome owners report limp mode moments on highway grades, situations where power drops sharply and leaves the driver searching for a safe shoulder. Oil dilution made matters worse, thinning lubrication and accelerating wear on components that were already struggling under heavy load. It did not matter whether the coach was lightly packed or fully loaded. The pattern repeated itself with unsettling consistency because the core problem was built into the system rather than caused by neglect. Repair records tell a similar story. A replacement exhaust gas recirculation cooler can cost several $1,000s. A turbocharger replacement often adds another sizable bill. Combined repairs easily reach into the mid-four-figure range, and repeated failures are not unusual. That financial weight shows up in the used market. Dealers acknowledge that motorhomes built on the MaxxForce 7 chassis often sell for noticeably less than comparable models powered by Cummins engines. The gap exists not because of floor plans or features, but because buyers understand the long-term cost risk hidden in this engine's design. Owners who have lived with the MaxxForce 7 describe the emotional toll clearly. Trips become unpredictable. Maintenance schedules shift from preventive to reactive. Confidence fades. The idea of setting out on a long stretch of highway becomes a calculation rather than a pleasure, and that feeling is difficult to ignore when evaluating any used coach equipped with this engine. Yet these frustrations serve a purpose. They highlight how critical emissions design is to real-world reliability, and how the wrong approach can overshadow the rest of a motorhome's construction. As we move forward, the next engine on this list demonstrates a different form of compromise. Instead of battling emissions components, it struggles with raw power output, placing strain on transmissions and cooling systems in ways that reshape ownership costs. That pattern reveals an important truth. The weakest link in a powertrain always dictates the financial future of the vehicle it supports, no matter how strong the rest of the build may appear at first glance. Dodge Chrysler 5.2-liter Magnum. Some engines enter motorhome duty with more weight on their shoulders than they were ever meant to carry, and the Dodge Chrysler 5.2-liter Magnum is one of the clearest examples of that mismatch. Built originally for light trucks and passenger vans, it found itself powering full-size conversions and compact motorhomes that demanded far more torque and cooling capacity than this engine could reliably deliver. The moment these rigs met steep grades or extended highway climbs, the limits began to show in unmistakable ways. Heat was the first warning sign. Owners frequently described temperatures rising faster than expected, even on moderate inclines. The cooling system works hard, then harder, until the needle edges into a zone no driver wants to see. Long before any component fails outright, you feel the strain in the way the engine hesitates under load, and the way the fan roars in a desperate fight to keep temperatures under control. That fight becomes expensive quickly. Cooling repairs on these engines often cost between $1,200 and $2,000, and those are the repairs you see coming. The next issue is power. The 5.2-liter Magnum was never designed to move the weight of a fully outfitted motorhome, and the result is constant gear hunting and heavy throttle input. The transmission compensates because the engine simply does not have enough low-end torque to move the mass smoothly. That puts stress on clutches, bands, and fluid temperatures, often leading to early transmission wear. The repair bills that follow can easily exceed the cost cost of the engine repairs themselves, turning one weakness into a chain reaction that affects the entire drivetrain. Depreciation reflects this reality. According to long-term value patterns, motorhomes built around the 5.2-liter Magnum regularly sell for 15 to 20% less than comparable models powered by the larger 5.9-liter engine. Buyers know the difference, and they negotiate accordingly. A coach may look clean, well-kept, and fully maintained, but the powertrain defines long-term ownership costs, and this engine's limitations are too well known to ignore. Yet what makes this power plant's story so striking is not just its lack of capability. It is the way it changes the travel experience. Drivers talk about approaching hills with caution instead of confidence, planning routes around grades, and watching temperatures more closely than scenery. That shift in mindset matters because it turns every long trip into a calculation rather than a comfortable drive. As we move ahead, the next engine on this list takes that theme even further. Instead of suffering from limited output, it struggles with internal design flaws that transform routine maintenance into a cycle of expensive, repeating failures. Understanding that next step reveals why some power plants reshape entire markets and why certain motorhomes lose value long before their bodies ever show their age. If you want more clear, fact-based guidance before making your next move, subscribe now. Every upcoming breakdown will show what protects your money and what puts it at risk. Do not miss the next update when the market shifts again. Ford 6.0 Power Stroke. There are engines that earn their reputation slowly, and there are engines that earn it the moment the first major failure lands on the repair bill. The Ford 6.0 Power Stroke, built from 2003 through 2007, belongs firmly in that second category. What looked like a modern, high-pressure diesel with strong output became one of the most repair-prone power plants ever installed in motorhomes, and the pattern of failure it created is still felt on auction lots and dealer inventories today. The trouble begins with pressure, heat, and the way this engine moves coolant and exhaust through the system. The oil cooler sits deep inside the engine block, forcing coolant through narrow passages that clog with time. Once that cooler loses flow, temperatures rise, the exhaust gas recirculation cooler overheats, and the entire process becomes a chain reaction. When the exhaust gas recirculation cooler ruptures, it often sends superheated steam back into the intake, lifting head gaskets and forcing the engine into sudden power loss. Drivers describe the moment clearly: a heavy load, a slight stumble, then a rapid drop in strength as the system fights to protect itself. Repair shops have seen the pattern so often that they use a single word to describe the solution: bulletproofing. But that solution is neither simple nor inexpensive. A full upgrade, including a new oil cooler, exhaust gas recirculation cooler replacement, updated head studs, a revised turbocharger cleaning, and coolant system flush, regularly lands between $8,000 and $12,000. That number rises when towing, diagnostics, or additional failures appear. And once a motorhome receives this repair, owners tend to keep detailed documentation because values depend heavily on whether these upgrades were completed. The used market reflects that truth. Motorhomes powered by the 6.0 Power Stroke routinely sell for $8,000 to $15,000 less than otherwise identical models equipped with the earlier 7.3 engine or the later 6.4 design. Buyers know the risks, and they negotiate accordingly. The difference in value has nothing to do with floor plans or mileage. It stems entirely from the reputation of the engine and the well-documented failures that pushed repair costs far past what most owners expected. And yet, the 6.0 Power Stroke still teaches an important lesson. Power alone does not define reliability. Heat management, component placement, and engineering decisions beneath the surface determine whether a diesel engine protects a travel budget or quietly drains it through repeated failures. As we turn to the final engine on this list, the pattern becomes even clearer. Some power plants break abruptly, others break expensively, but the one ahead combines hidden design weaknesses with repair clusters that strike all at once, reshaping the value of any motorhome built around it. Mercedes-Benz OM642 3.0-liter diesel. There is a particular kind of disappointment that settles in when an engine designed for refinement ends up delivering repair bills that feel heavier than the miles traveled. The Mercedes-Benz OM642 3.0-liter diesel, used widely in sprinter-based motorhomes, is a perfect example of how engineering elegance can falter under real-world load. load. What works beautifully in a light passenger vehicle begins to strain when asked to push a fully equipped motorhome through heat, hills, and long-distance travel. Beneath its smooth sound and polished manners, several hidden weaknesses wait for the right conditions to reveal themselves, often all at once. The first issue sits deep in the engine valley. The oil cooler seals, two small seals, buried beneath layers of components, harden with time and heat. Once they fail, oil pools where it cannot be seen until it escapes along the block and drips onto hot surfaces. The repair requires hours of disassembly, and the bill can climb into several $1,000s before the motorhome ever returns to the road. That alone would be enough to frustrate an owner, but the OM642 does not stop there. Swirl valve motors add another layer of trouble. These valves manage airflow within the intake runners, but soot accumulation eventually slows or seizes them. When that happens, warning lights appear, performance drops, and limp mode may activate without warning. Many owners attempt temporary fixes, but the long-term solution usually involves replacing the entire assembly, another expensive repair that arrives sooner than expected. The pattern continues with injector sealing issues, often called Black Death. When injectors leak combustion gases, carbon buildup fuses them in place. Removing them becomes a time-consuming and costly process, especially when the engine has high mileage or poor service history. Then comes the emission system. Diesel particulate filter cycles, exhaust treatment sensors, and related components often trigger limp mode during long climbs, forcing drivers to crawl toward the next exit as power fades. The emotional and financial toll rises fast, because one failure usually triggers another. Auction results show the impact clearly. Sprinter-based motorhomes with the OM642 routinely sell for far less than similar gas models, not from wear, but from fear of repair clusters. It proves even refined diesels become liabilities when weight and heat expose underlying weaknesses. Those are the worst R-Vee engines ever made. Have you dealt with any of them? Drop your experience below so other owners know what to avoid. If this helped, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives on R-Vee reliability, market shifts, and what really protects your wallet on the road.